Welcome back to our how-to series on the Climatiq Excel Add-In. In this video, we will look at how to calculate the carbon emissions from electricity usage based off your business activity data. The Climatiq Excel plugin for electricity provides scientifically grounded estimates of greenhouse gas emissions from electricity consumption, drawing on data from trusted sources such as IEA, AIB, and EPA. Both grid-supplied and direct line electricity sources are covered in the calculations, accommodating for up to 149 different countries and 10 different energy sources. Calculations incorporate upstream emissions such as well to tank and transmission and distribution losses, aligning with Scope 2 and optional Scope 3 reporting requirements. Additionally, they provide both location and market-based emission estimations. Calculations also take into account any RECs you might have, the energy source that the electricity was generated from, and even the exact supplier of the electricity. Let's look at how to estimate the carbon emissions of electricity usage across a variety of energy sources. To get started, please download the demo file from our website and head over to the electricity sheet. Suppose we consume 13,000 kilowatt hours of electricity generated from coal and delivered via the grid in South Africa. We can start by entering in the electricity amount in kilowatt hours, along with the region. The region needs to be in the 2-digit country code format. It is important to note that the amount and region fields are the only compulsory fields. The next columns after this are simply optional. Let's look at the next few fields, which can be filled in for more accurate calculation results. We can enter the year of the electricity consumption. We can now select the method in which the electricity was delivered. So the options here would be direct if the electricity was delivered via a direct line from a local power plant, or alternatively grid. Let's put this in as grid. You can also specify if the result should be location or market-based. This depends on if you want the result to reflect the average grid emissions in the region where the electricity is used, or emissions from electricity based on the market mix. Let's put down location-based for our example. For Great Britain or the US, a supplier ID can be provided to use market factors for that supplier. The supplier ID list of options can be found in our documentation on our website. We can then enter in the energy source. In this instance, we'll use coal, but some other options you could enter are renewable or specific fuel types such as natural gas, coal, biomass, and nuclear. If you set the calculation type to market-based, then it would also be relevant to enter in the number of renewable energy certificates you currently have, if applicable. Of course, the more RECs you have, the lower your CO2 emission results will be. You can also choose if Scope 3 emissions should be considered in the calculation. For example, if there were any indirect fuel and energy-related activities that might fall under Scope 3.3. Lastly, to see detailed results in the output, let's set Show Details to True. If you wanted to see just the CO2 equivalent value in the results, you can set it to false. Now that all of our input data is ready, it's time to calculate. We can access Climatiq's formulas by clicking the equal sign on our keyboard. We are doing an electricity calculation, so we need to select the electricity formula. Now we can enter our input data. We can select the values, separating each input value with a comma or a semicolon, depending on your Excel settings. We can close off with a bracket and hit enter. We can now see the results have been outputted in the output columns. Let's have a look and interpret the results. We first have the overall CO2 equivalent value in kilograms from the electricity usage. Following this, we have the portion of CO2 emissions that resulted from just electricity generation, which would be the Scope 2 emissions. We also have the well-to-tank upstream emissions, which would fall under Scope 3.3 fuel and energy, as well as the carbon emissions of the transmission and distribution of the electricity. This is further broken down with the value representing the well-to-tank emissions of the transmission and distribution losses reported under Scope 3.3. We finish off with a column clearly showing the applied emission factors used for this calculation, as well as a notices column where any assumptions or conditions were applied that would impact the final result. For quick batch calculations of numerous rows of electricity consumption data, simply drag down all the input data rows for instant carbon emissions results. That's all you need to know about calculating the carbon impact of your electricity consumption using Climatiq's Excel Add-In. To learn more about the different calculations you can make using Climatiq, please continue to the next video in this how-to series. I'll see you in the next video.